I got my mom on the camera today. She's helping me out, my inspiration for fishing. So
he says that I was his inspiration, but I got to be honest, he has sparked back my love of fishing because he makes it so much fun for all of us. Typically, when we go out to the river, he spends more time guiding and making sure those of us around him are catching fish, and finds pure delight in that.
of course, my mom's gonna say that, right?
No, it's so fun.
And I love guiding. Usually, when I'm fishing with my family, I just put my pole down on the bank and just help. It's probably what I prefer to do most of the time anyway. I love catching fish, but I catch too many. Is that too cocky?
No, that's true. You could say that.
I don't know. I've noticed that the biggest thing with fishing a lot of the time is your confidence in your cast. If you think you're going to catch a fish, you probably will. If you don't think you're going to catch a fish, you probably won't. Which is why I'm throwing on a stimulator right now, because I think stimulator is going to stimulate them. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to throw on a streamer, see if they like that. Middle of the day streamer is not typical. Not typical at all. But then again, fishing never, ever, ever is typical. 90% of the time when I catch a fish, I'm wondering why. I go back and research why. And there's an answer, but that answer is constantly proved wrong. I've noticed that the best fishermen are the ones that can improvise. So I try to do that as much as I can. I'm gonna actually change ticket. I don't have a lot left. I think longer is gonna be better when the fish are this spooky. I've got a weird method of doing it. I use my mouth to keep the tag end steady, which I think makes it a lot faster, but everyone's got their funny method, so. Definitely done it slower and definitely done it faster, but there you go. How you doing over there, camera lady?
This is a blast. Seriously.
It's a good thing I'm good at talking a lot. Alright. So, I'm looking at this slow water, and I'm thinking they could be in this fast water up here, or they could be in the slower, deeper water. Considering it's so hot today, I would guess they're in the fast water, but I just got a bite in the slow water, so I'm going to try that again. Since I'm using a barbless hook, I definitely want to be sitting below the fish, so that if I do land one, I can get a good hook set up. If I pull it too high upstream, I'm going to yank it out of his mouth, or risk having too much slack on the line. And I lost my hook. Man, this sun's killer. Too bad I lost my glasses in A-Bar A. Unfortunately, I'm not fishing the brand I'm more familiar with, but it's super bright and sunny. Usually isn't what you're going for. Overcast is a little better. There's one. Hopefully he stays on this thing. Alright, so I'm trying to keep as much tension on as I can. If I let go too much, he's going to get off. I'm going to let him wear himself out a little bit before I bring him all the way in. And it's important on hot days like this to get him in and get him back in the water quick. This tiny little guy. I don't want to hurt him. Well, not a monster, but beautiful fish, regardless. And I pinch all my barbs just so getting them out's nice and easy, and make sure he's nice and revived and ready to go, and he just swam off super quick, didn't even have a chance. So, let's hope we can do it again. Maybe switch to a different spot too. Alright, so second hole I'm trying, but I'm going to put the size 16 back on, which is a little large for this time of the year, but I have so much confidence in this pattern. This pattern will always catch fish.
Because?
Because I tied it. No, this specific pattern that I tied, that I call the Wes's Prince, is tied on a jig hook, which sinks a little better and it floats upside down so that it doesn't snag nearly as much. And a normal Prince nymph is tied with 2 white goose biots on the top, and the one really big difference that I did with this fly is I just took those off. I think, especially in late November or early November like we are now, it's kind of distracting and can spook a fish, or they really just aren't that necessary. I've found that this pattern has a lot more success without them. Also, a traditional Prince, I believe, is tied with a silver tinsel ribbing, and I've decided to replace that with a copper wire instead, an extra small copper wire. A little bit more subtle, a little bit more weight, and those two things in combination make this pattern, I mean, I fish this from January to January and it always catches fish. In a size 16 too. There's times of the year when people won't fish higher than a size 20, and I'll fish a 16 all year round, and it'll work just fine. So let's get the indicator, probably, again, 1.5 times the water depth, which it looks like is probably around 2 feet, just guessing. And if I'm snagging too much on the bottom, or I'm not snagging at all and the fish aren't having it, I'll probably move the indicator up my leader. Some people do it the opposite. They start too long and go short, but I found that this works for me, so. So I'm gonna cast well above where I think the fish are. I think the fish are gonna hang out in the deepest, slowest spot there. So I'm gonna cast at least 5 feet above that, just to let the fly sink down. And hopefully there's a fish here. I've actually never fished this spot before, so we'll see. So I've got plenty of line out, not too much, but enough to get to the hole. And I'm ready with my trigger finger just in case they hit it. And that may or may not be a fish. We'll find out. Alright, with this next cast, I'm going to try going a little closer to the bank. The bank is a lot slower water, and a lot of the times the fish will just hang out right on the edge of the bank, and they'll swim to get food in the current, but they'll hang out in the bank because they have to use a lot less energy. So I'm going to throw as close to that seam line between the riffles and the bank as I can. And my indicator is floating basically on the bank. Dry fly casting, it does matter your form, it does matter your technique. That's pretty important. You want, essentially, when your fly hits the water, you want your line to be as straight as possible. So you make 2 solid motions, forward, back, forward, back. And everybody has like a slightly different way of doing it, and you just got to find out like what way works for you. So I've got a lot of line out right now, but just for demonstration purposes, I'll keep that much line out. So my line landed pretty straight, and you want to pull line in to make that as straight as possible the whole way through that drift. And with dry flies, the drift isn't nearly as important in my opinion, just because 99% of the time in dry flies, they're going to hit within the first 2 seconds. I fly very carefully because even if you don't see your eyes, if that fly dips under the water, that could be a fish just sipping up on the surface. With a big fly like this, it's usually a little bit more obvious, but if you're using a small fly, which is a little bit more standard in sizes 16 and lower, you definitely want to have your eyes open. Or, you know, if I were guiding, I'd have my eyes open for you, so. It's really tempting to put on a blue and olive. But they're not rising. And because they're not rising, I'm not super tempted to continue dry fly casting. Not to say that I can't get one to rise on my fly. Often you can provoke a fish even if they're not rising. But when they're rising, you know they're eating. When they're not rising, you don't know. So a nymph is usually a safer bet. See something different every single time. Which is why I'm so obsessed with this sport. It never ever gets old. Even when you're not catching fish, I can make this sport the most fun sport in the world.